Hello everyone, I hope that you're doing fine. Today I would like to talk a bit about a very common experience in the relationship world. Perhaps you have heard about some people who find it difficult to sustain a good and healthy relationship. And when they find themselves in a good and healthy dynamics, they may do something consciously or unconsciously which ruins their relationship. Maybe you yourself struggle with this one. This is unfortunately a very common phenomenon and happens in so many ways in people's lives. It feels like they cannot, bear staying in healthy relationship and having a very good supportive partner. It feels odds and far away from their real inner world or inner belief on who they really are and what they really should deserve. It sounds a little strange, isn't it? But let us take a look at the psychology behind this. Actually, an unconscious tendency to sabotage love relationships and friendships stems from childhood. It is a response to a tremendous fear of abandonment and neglect. As a matter of fact, being abandoned and neglected is one of the most profound and painful emotional and mental experiences for human beings. Because, as mentioned before, we are social creatures. And we are totally dependent on each other, dependent on connection to our loved ones in order to survive. As you might know, the concept of trauma has got a much more widespread and extended meaning than before. It is not only, big adverse happenings or disasters which happen to us, which are regarded as traumas. The fact is that many good, positive, and pleasant things that should have happened to us but did not, are also seen as traumatic experiences, which will impact us hugely. The adverse experiences and happenings are called big T traumas, and those latent ones about neglect and multiple experiences of being abandoned or not receiving unconditioned love from parents or caregivers are called small t traumas. We know by research that around 80% of people globally have experienced small t traumas. But interestingly, most of them say that nothing bad happened to them or that they can remember nothing traumatic at all. And this answer is something that I tend to be curious about and try to ask further to help my clients to elaborate on this perception, what they really mean. Because in many cases, it will be revealed that they have actually experienced a lot of traumas. We believe that small t traumas affect the brain and our nervous system and psychology as big T traumas do, sometimes even more. Because small t traumas and neglect can create an ambiguous experience of not being loved and not being deserved to be liked and taken care of for the child. So the child struggles to understand why. Children are born with a powerful instinct to connect and to be authentic and feel that they are important and are cared for what they are, who they are, by their loved ones. So they try to connect with them but gets rejected and neglected. What happens inside her or his psychological mind is that the child, by experiencing abandonment and neglect repeatedly, will start believing that this is my fault and my needs are not being met because there is something fundamentally wrong with me. I must be a terribly bad person. And these conclusions on self-perception become the fundaments of his life philosophy and his attitude toward himself afterwards. So, consequence of such a learning is that the child will secretly establish a love and hate relationship with connection and authenticity. And at the one hand, he is deeply in need for connection and thirsty for love and would like to join and meet people and connect with their souls and hearts. But on the other hand, he struggles with a powerful fear about not being liked, like nobody wants to connect with me. And moreover, if I connect with people, they will get to know me and recognize that I'm not good enough and I'm a terrible person or that I'm not worthy to be loved. and then they will certainly decide to abandon and reject me. And at a bigger scale, the child starts feeling like it's him against the bad world all the time, because there is no one who has understood him or really shown him affection and love. And this is the roots of feeling lonely and scared. Being abandoned, rejected, and lonely becomes their truth and the main rule of their life and existence. They will remain far away from their authentic needs and identity. And this is the backstage story, of the mind of those who are ironically, experts in ruining their relationships. They may feel constantly scared in relationships, especially when it enters into a closer and intimate phase where there is potential, for space, for growth, for connection and flourishing intimacy and authentic connection. And such a fear can display in, very different ways. For example, for one of my clients, it was experienced in forms of anxiety and stress, heartbeats, and unpleasant sensation of tensions and stress every time her partner wanted to connect with her and get close and intimate. And she could hear her own heartbeat, she said to me, and anxiety when he kissed her neck, and there was a sign for, in his behavior for a desire for greater intimacy and affection. And this was a trauma response, an echo from a trauma which was stuck in her nervous system, which signaled fear and sent her to an alert state whenever she was in a close relational space with her husband. So when this fear shapes itself as a semantic schema in the child's nervous system and brain, the survival strategies, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn responses get active to help the child to tackle that situation. But you neither fight or flee, but rather get stuck and freeze, because you need your parents, those important persons in your life. Otherwise, the desperation and helplessness of accepting the fact that you've got incompetent and unkind parents who cannot, or even they don't want to take care of you, is too much to stand and tolerate emotionally. So your response instead may be to freeze and to start disassociating from inner world and your authentic self by being present for them and trying hard to fulfilling their needs and expectations and concluding that you are not good enough. That's the safest choice by them, because it will also give you a sense of control. So next time you are prone to experience the same thing, then you will know that it's about you and your deficiency and not about others. And then you might have a solution for it because it's about you and not others. Since you see the world as bad and unpredictable and unkind, then you have only your lonely self to count on. And then in adult relationship, you may do everything just to prevent getting hurt again and not feeling that abandonment and that pain, being disliked or seen as an unimportant person again. And these behaviors and coping strategies, are just adaptations and sorts of adjustments and shortcuts to enable your nervous system to feel a temporary safety. These adaptive behaviors develop intensively over time, and that fear gets robust. So your strategy will be covering your face with masks and going ahead with relationships and dating. But when you're old and out of date, expired adaptation skills will not function anymore, you start escaping from that relationship. This happens also in the therapy context, as the person may suddenly disappear or drop out from therapy sessions, especially in those vulnerable, important phases where there is a bigger room for connection with himself and allowing herself to dedicate himself a wider place and really feel how the experience of being safe in a relational setting can be felt. So you may feel that you get emotional flashbacks of what your body went through during childhood and how painful it was for you to get rejected, but your cognitive memory is not serving optimally then. But the reflections of emotional and implicit memory stored in your body get activated and push you through an escape door to prevent that trouble feeling again. So that remains as a huge contrast for you, because you love that person and could imagine a good, safe future with her or him. And you may ask yourself, what has happened that I suddenly find myself in a way out of my path? You escape, and your flight response is a reflection of what is actually happening in your inner world, the disconnection from yourself. It is better to disappear so you can prevent getting abundant again. You yourself abundant this time, instead of experiencing a real external abandonment by another person. But again, this is your feelings and body which are paying the price of such a choice. That paradoxical dilemma saying that, you should stay, this life has a potential to become something good, and that inner voice saying that, you cannot trust it, you will get ignored and abandoned anyway, is one of the worst and most painful emotional complexes for human beings. That healing path passes through the road of self-awareness, as well as helping the body to release those impacts and stocked patterns of trauma. So this knowledge is good, but is not enough to make that change to happen, right? So the trauma, as you know, sits there in your body. So all somatic experiences and exercises which help your body to unload fear and trauma blueprint are valuable. I believe that somatic exercises and psychotherapy are the gateways to healing and a change process by which we recognize the fear and try to face it and allow our body to make a small space for safety again. Well, this is a huge and very important topic. I hope that you have those important skills to manage your relationship without needing to escape from your feelings or hide yourself. Thank you for joining. Take care. Bye.